Yeah. We're beginning Perek Hey of the Nefesh HaChaim, so you have one open. It's helpful. Until now, we've been learning about how the Adam, not even the Ma'asim of the Adam, but the actual structure of an Adam, of a person, is actually parallel to the structure of the Beis HaMikdash, which is parallel to like a mirror image of the structure of the Olam HaSalyonim. And it's mahavta like the remote on a TV set. So like what you can do is you can run this whole marechet from the Beis HaMikdash. You can run it from another switch panel is the Adam, and another thing that's going on is in the Shemayim, and ideally you want all three to complete the circuit. So what we've been learning in a sentence is the kesher of the circle, the different switching spots of the circle, but that there's a makbil between the Adam and the Beis HaMikdash and the Olam HaSalyonim. And in the Perek Hey, begin to talk about the technology of it on a deeper level. Or that was simple. Last. U'masha also b'rtzayna yisbarach shmai laharkiv es ha'adam ha'tachtain l'roshei ha'olamayis ha'elyonim she'yisnagu ha'yadai. We found that it's the Ratzon Hashem laharkiv es ha'adam, when he assembles the person, laharkiv, like a package from IKEA, laharkiv, or kava. So when he assembles a person, hatachtain, that's us, he's markivas ha'adam hatachtain l'roshei ha'elamayis ha'elyonim. He's creating a person in such a way that he is the switchboard to the elamayis elyonim, to what's going on in the Shemayim. She'yisnagu al yadai, and then it's working through me. What's the pshat? So ki yadua b'zayar, because it's known in the Zayar, the chisvei ha'arizal, the seder hishtalshlus v'hiskashrus ha'elamayis. For this, to understand how this works exactly, to understand how it works better, you have to understand the hishtalshlus v'hiskashrus ha'elamayis. So that's what we're going to learn about now. The hishtalshlus, which is chain reaction. Hishtalshlus is the chain, the shalshel, v'hiskashrus, and the bonding of olamayis. Shekol olam hu misnaeg, that every world is being run, or b'sidr matzavai v'chol pratei inyanav, every part of that world and every detail of it, k'fi netias kayach ha'olam sha'alav, according to the world that is above it. I'm going to explain. Sheman higai kineshama es haguf. V'chein hoylech al zeh seder gavoya me'al gavoya ad shehu yisbarach shmai nishmas kulam. So let's just understand the aside that he's saying. Let's just open up your minds and hearts to this, because it's not thoughts that we're used to. A person, which we're used to, it has everything that comes up on an X-ray, everything that a psychologist will tell you do, which doesn't come up on an X-ray necessarily, right? Everything about a person, and which is physical, is actually being governed in a way by the neshama, meaning the intel inside, right? Like there's a neshama wherever the neshama is. I mentioned seems to be a machlekes, so the neshama's here, or the neshama's here, but wherever the neshama is, it's roya ve'eino nira. It's you see, it sees, but it doesn't show up anywhere. It's not something you can point to, but there's this life force of a neshama, which is really the standing above the whole physical property of a person, and in a way governing it. So then there's the whole world. There's the world that we live in, and then on top of that, there's another world. So to reintroduce you to the idea that there are infinite amount of worlds, probably. But there's 4 worlds that have been identified by the Mekubalim, based on Tanakh, based on Nevuos, that there's the world of Asiah going up. There's a world of Asiah that we live in, Asiah, Maisa. Above that is there's a world of Yitzirah. It's already a world we don't see. And above that there's a world of Briah. And above that there's a world of Atzilus. And above that is the world of Hashem, which we have no kasher to, and we don't even go there. Even Mekubalim don't go there. Like Mala that you're not allowed to think about is talking about Lamala of the world of Atzilus. Atzilus is still in a bechina of Eitzel. It's not a mistake to think what people think, that, oh, that's Hashem's world. Everything's Hashem's world. That's not Hashem's world any more than this is Hashem's world. But there's different manifestations. So it means that everything that exists in this world, everything, us, everything, has a more spiritual aspect of that same existence in the world above us, and then another even more spiritual aspect of it, dimension of it in the world above that, and even a more one in the world of Atzilus, and then we don't know. And that's the way Hashem made the world. It's not something that we have to, why did he make the world that way? Maybe he could have just made it here, I don't know. But something like there's different, like if you're making if you're making a cake, so there's the recipe, there's the raw products, there's mixing them all together, and then there's a cake. I can't give a good bushel because I'm going to give a good bushel, but I'm just saying to understand there's 4 stages to the Briah. That's the way we normally understand it. On a Ruchnius level, it's even more than that, because it's not just that it's the stage before, but it's actually, as he says here, the world on top of it, the world on top of the world that we're in, is actually the neshama to the world below it. If I'm permitted just to continue with my mashal, like. In a sense, like you can't eat a recipe book. Like it's not something that you have any. It's just information, really, or you can have the recipe in your head. But that recipe, even though there's so many gilgul in between, you have to go shopping, you have to get material, you have to measure, you have to cook, you have to But what it says there, every word that it says there, is affecting how my cake is going to taste. And again, this is significant Kabbalistically. There's a difference between male and female in this regard, because to most men, what it says in the recipe book is just simply a suggestion or a recommendation. It's not like they're taking it like so seriously, right? Like, all right, they hold it. You should put in 5 eggs. They'll put in 8 eggs. And that's why probably most recipes flop. A recipe is something that's been tested. It's very medayik. Now, sometimes there are things you can replace with this if you're really a chef, but there's an umnus to it. So I'm just saying that when we're talking about what's going on in this world, in a way, it's all affected from a world that doesn't even have any gashmius in it. There's like a dimension to this which kiviyachol Kadosh Baruch Hu's machshava, and what's supposed to happen is actually affecting what's happening. Well, you say, well, it's pretty remote. Well, it's not really so remote. It's what if you're following the recipe, then this is the way it's going to come out. Yitachem that the pshat in doing an avera is you decided not to follow the recipe. So in other words, you're mekalkel asay lamas. That's the pashtus. I'm just saying that's the pashtus. When you start talking about what he's saying over here, you're talking about a different level. That there's the level that you see, and then there's a level that you don't see, which is called the neshama. The pshat of the neshama is that life force within us So a medic can come and pronounce somebody dead, or at a birth say, I've created life, but obviously you didn't create life and you didn't create death. Just looking at symptoms, markers, right? Breathing, heartbeat, things like that. But it's you're not making or taking life. Like that's how it is. So what is life? What is life? Like what is life? From the second before a baby's born to the second a baby's born. In law, in halacha, if one were chas v'shalom kill somebody, that 1 second is the difference between murder and not murder. Same thing as if somebody's dying. The difference between life and death is very, very delicate. But that life force is the neshama, and the neshama is something which is not something which anybody can pick up. We can just look at the symptoms of it. Nobody can see it. You can just see the symptoms of it. So there's this idea of the neshama which is on top of it. Let's look inside here. Ayin Zohar. In mine it has the Zohar in Hebrew. I don't know if you have this. Boy, say you don't have Svarim. Everybody doesn't have a section. What happened? We brought 10 Svarim. I'm just, I don't know about you, but I'm not smart enough to do this outside. So the Zohar says, let's go straight to the Hebrew. V'chol olam, every one of the worlds, el yoin v'tachtoin. I'm reading my Hebrew. You can read it in Aramaic if you want. Mireshis soid nekuda hel yoina, ad soif kol hadargos kulam heim zel levush lezev v'zel lezev v'zev v'toik zev v'zev v'toik zev. The word in, Eliezer, you want to read that in English? You have it in English in front of you.
I can't find where I am.
Can you come over first?
Because I don't think I see it.
You don't think it's there?
Maybe it probably is, but I just don't see it.
Yeah. He says here, I'm just reading in English. All the world levels are connected in this sequence of level above level till they ultimately connect to God, who is the soul of them all. With each world, upper and lower from the secret originating upper point until the lowest of all the levels, each is the container of the next level, each one within the next. Da lagav min da. And then he brings the next Zohar in the Idra, which says, with all the lights interconnected with each other and enlightening each other, the revealed light being referred to as the container of the king, and the inner light is hidden. Hard to understand those words, so I'm just going to try to explain something here. The words of the Zohar is, Kulam heim zel levush zel lezeh v'zeh b'toik zeh v'zeh b'toik zeh. So let me just give you a picture in your mind. A person is wearing a coat. And on top of that coat he puts another coat, and then another coat, another coat, another coat, 10 coats. And now he moves. So all 10 coats are moving. What's moving the 10th coat? The 9th coat? Person. Now it's true that on some physical nature, a physical level, so each coat is being menia the coat before it. But the fact is that what's really controlling the movement of the coats is just again to give you a seer in your mind, but I remember years ago, my Rabbi Sheinberg Zechatzaddik Livracha, so in his house everyone knows he wore a lot of tzitzis, but in his house he used to wear not just a lot of tzitzis, also a lot of talesim, and maybe 50 talesim. 60 talesim, whatever he was able to wear. I don't think there was a number, whatever he was able to wear. What? Yeah, 100 tzitzis. And then everyone says, how many wears? People used to say, he wears 18 pairs of tzitzis. He doesn't know himself how many he could put on. That was his avodah. Each one is a mitzvah, whatever his cheshbon was, I don't know, and he would make it more and more. And then he would wear talesim. So it was often the case that he would be so covered in talesim sitting at home that you really couldn't see him. Like all you could see is like a little. When the minhag was when you were new in the yeshiva, 50 years ago, we were new in the yeshiva, so he used to come and say Shalom Aleichem to the yeshiva in his house, and then go take your suitcases. That was the first thing the taxi stopped. He said Shalom Aleichem, He was. So there was a fellow Asiah widow who told me the story. Ended up very close to the Rosh Yeshiva. He came in, a young bacher, and he comes to the house once. They show him to the Rosh Yeshiva. So the Rebbetzin said she was sitting on the porch. That's what he said, on the porch. So he's outside on the porch learning. So he goes out into the porch and he comes back inside. 10 minutes later, he says, "Nothing out there but a pile of talais." See here, what it was, until he's out there. Until the talais moved. So the pshat is that all of the levushim are levushim. You could have 10, you could have 100, you could have 1,000 levushim. It doesn't make a difference. The mania of the levushim is the adam shebetachta. So if you want to understand the Zohar, I believe the way to understand the Zohar is kol zeh levush b'toich levush dalagab zeh v'dalagab zeh. There's a lashon of the Zohar in many places, one inside the other, beseder. There's all these worlds, and each one is having a different effect, like each talus and each code, everything gewaldic. But the mania, the mover, the shaker of the whole business is the adam, which is inside. Now, we're going to have mixed reviews here from the Zohar and the other Idra as to what's the pnimius. Is the pnimius HaKadosh Baruch Hu, or is the pnimius the adam? Like, what's the mover? And the answer is they're both true. Just open up your minds to the point that both can be true. It could be mania from here, you could be mania from here. But the mashal of levushin zebetoch zeh zebegav zeh is this mashal of many levushim on top of an adam, and the adam is really the mover of the whole thing. That's the picture that the Zohar puts out. So it means to say that every prat and every tznuah that we do here in this world is moving is moving mountains in Shemayim. In other words, it's moving levush, and that's moving the levush on top of it, moving levush on top of it. Everything is moving because of my little move here. And you could even argue, from a physicist's point of view, that it's, I think there's a concept, if I recall, called projection. So projection means that it's actually moving at a bigger angle, meaning I can move a little thing here, and then it's moving something even bigger, and then it's moving something even bigger. So the movement on top is actually a bigger movement than the movement on the bottom.
With cogs, like something you have a small pump, but it turns a bigger one, which...
Right. So, it's very interesting here because I want to explain something. I'm just trying to bring the Kabbalah of this to a very a level that we can understand. Obviously, we can't understand it all because who can understand it all? It's not possible. Well, at least we're going to get the math. But let's just a little further. Protosainian mavur be'etz chayim sharp pnimius. If you want to understand it in more detail, look in the Eitz Chaim. That's the Arizal. That sharp pnimius v'chitzonius. Nice chapter title. Sharp pnimius v'chitzonius. That's what the Arizal called it. Drush beis. Ubepri Eitz Chaim b'akdama shar hashabbos perek zayin perek ches. So b'shar hashabbos perek chav daled. He knew his Eitz Chaim, so Chaim Beloshin. He knew nothing. It was like Mishnah to him. Shechitzonius shall call parts of the olam, the chitzonius of every world, mispashet umislabesh baha parts of the olam shetachtav. It is covering and being mislabesh, the same idea, the parts of shevetachtav. Same thing I'm explaining. V'nasalei lepnimius u'leneshama. V'chol ha'olamis nichlalim v'nichlakim l'dalit ki yadu Hashem oifanim v'chayos v'chisi ha'kavod v'atzilus kodshei yishbarach. There's enough Kabbalah for today. I just want to understand that when we talk about v'oifanim v'chayos ha'kodesh, right? What we're talking about there is oifanim v'chayos ha'kodesh. We're bringing the middle of Kriya Shema. We're talking about these different levushim, which is a way that he's understanding it, levushim, or different worlds, one on top of the other. That's what we're talking about. There's Oifanim, there's Chayis HaKodesh, Kisei HaKavod, which is the world of, the Kisei HaKavod is in the world of Briah, right? Okay. Again, look, if I say so. Look, there's the four worlds, which are really infinite worlds, but the four defined worlds are Abiyah, Atzilus, from top to bottom. Atzilus means like Eitzel Hashem. Atzilus. Briah, is where formation begins, Briah. Yitzirah is a more refined level of formation. Think about your cake. So you have Yitzirah. Yitzirah is so we have Yitzir Ar or Borei Choshech. Choshech is vague. Borei. Yitzirah is specific, detail. So Yitzir Ar Uvorei Choshech, going up. And then you have the world of Asiah, which is our world, which everything is very defined. It's very clear. This is a book, this is a table, this is me, this is you. So it's defined. So the higher up you go, if you will, the less defined it is, because the less Gashmi it is. And the less, the definition of Gashmi is that it has boundaries. There's a boundary between me and you. Like everyone likes to say beautifully under every chuppah that we've just broken down a boundary and brought two neshamas together. And I get a seichel to do that, which is why Shalom Bayis is so difficult. Bringing two things together, because Baruch Hu made everything to be separate in this world. So what you're doing is you're becoming the idea of Shalom Bayis to become otherworldly. The idea of having Avas Yisrael is to become otherworldly. You're reaching the only chance we have for not everybody not hating each other is to crawl into a higher world, which is less Megusham. And when it's less Megusham, there's less separating us. So on the one hand, Hashem separated everything, which is nice about the world of Gashmis. Everything's separate. Shali, shali, shalcha, shalcha. You know, but on a higher level, if you go all the way to the Kisei HaKavod, Yecheskel says this, not me. Yecheskel Hanavi says this. Kisei HaKavod, that's the Tzuras Adam. In the world of Briah, at the end of the whole thing, you have an Adam, but one Adam instead of all the millions of people that are here. So there's like the Adam HaKlali, the Neshama HaKlali, if you will. So that's the. But what I want to explain about this, let's just start with the first thing. You have the world of Asiah. On top of that, you have the world of Oifanim. There's a type of malachim, Ofanim. Ofanim means what in Hebrew? Wheels. Wheels. So you have the world of wheels. So the world of, remember, Atzilus, Briah, Yitzirah, Asiah. Asiah it doesn't have any malachim. The malachim are in the world right on top of us, and they're called, those malachim, the ones that are closest to us, are called wheels. Oifanim. It has everything to do with the Merkava. But the Oifanim, now look, there's Oifanim, Chayis HaKodesh.
So Yitzirah is not a world?
What?
So Asiah is not a world then?
It is a world. But that world he's not explaining. We know that world.
So there's
go
five?
to the doctor, yeah?
So there's five.
No. Asiah,
Right.
Yitzirah, Briah, Atzilus. So why you were asking a good question. Why Oifanim are in Asiah or in Yitzirah?
Right,
That's
right.
what you're asking. So that's what this whole chapter is about. That the Oifanim are the connector from this world until the next world. All of these are not the thing itself. That's not the world. The world is called Yitzirah. But the connector, you're the technician. But the thing that's joining this what?
Joint.
That's joining this world and this world are these particular malachim which are called wheels, huh?
The sprocket.
The what? Sprout?
Sprocket.
Sprocket. It's very helpful.
Those are the knobs, the joints. When this wheel comes out.
So they're called wheels. So I want to bear with me for a moment. When I think of a wheel, there's three kinds of wheels. When I think of a wheel, I'm thinking of the things at the bottom of my car, which are making it go. That's a wheel, right? Tires.
Or gear.
Another way of thinking of a wheel, and the way many of the Mefarshim that talk about the Nefesh HaChaim and the Zohar here, think about a different kind of a wheel. They talk about a wheel which is a pulley. You're lowering a bucket into a well, or like one of those big, machines that they have out there. Like you're bringing something, a crane, tris, right? So, and another kind of a wheel is a gear. Watch. Gears. Three different things. In the case of a wheel that's making things move. Is that the pshat in the Oifanim? Probably not. Even though that's the pashut of pshat in wheels. A wheel that's bringing something from a high place to a low place. So that's the wheel that many of the Mefarshim understand. We're talking about over here that you're taking from, doile, just like let's say a Rebbe brings from his Rebbe and gives it to his Talmud, who gives it to his Talmud, who gives it to his Talmud. It's a Messiah. So that Messiah is like a tris, yeah? It's going down. Like a dli. Aramimcha Hashem ki dilisani. What does that mean? You say it every day now. Aramimcha Hashem, I praise you Hashem. Ki dilisani. Because you lowered us?
You bring down your shefa.
So first of all, it's Lashon Dal, I'm a poor person, right? Dal. So what are we praising Hashem to Ki dilisani? Aramimcha Hashem ki dilisani.
That's dependent.
Okay, so if you like that, Aramimcha Hashem ki dilisani is that you have doled down to us, like a deli is a bucket, and its bucket goes up and a bucket goes down. So dilisani could be that it's going down, and dilisani could be that it's going up. The point is that there's a connection between the upper world and the lower world. So when we're saying Aramimcha Hashem ki dilisani, think about this tomorrow morning when you daven. Aramimcha Hashem ki dilisani, whoa, there's a connection.
But it's like what Zadok says, the way he describes it is that the dilisani is thank you, it's two directional.
That's what I just said.
Yeah.
That's what I just said. Dilisani. Dilisani doesn't mean going down, it means going down and going up. Oilav v'yored. In fact, the difference between a dal and an ani is a dal is like sometimes rich, sometimes poor, like it keeps on going back and forth. Like Las Vegas kind of guy. It's not a consistent. That's a consistent ani. Yeah.
No, the nachash. There's no back ever to this world. There's a need to.
You can't. You're bringing in another thing. I'm sorry. So, a concept here is very, very important. I'm putting it in simple words because it's the only way I can understand it, but I think it's the only way it can be understood. So, when we're talking about a wheel, then there's the wheel of the watch. It's a different wheel, and over here. And this is probably the most sophisticated part, the so sophisticated wheel that it's not even like a tris going up and down, but it's gears. So a small, tiny wheel can be moving directly or indirectly a big wheel, and there's all kinds of stuff going on, but it could be a tiny little thing. In fact, like this thing over here on the side can be moving the whole marechet. Now, this is oifanim. These are the different the wheels that as the world turns, right? the wheels that are one thing is causing the other thing to do. La'aniyas daiti, that's the best mashal for oifanim. So it like we're the Adam is here and we're turning some kind of a wheel, and then there's bigger wheels and bigger wheels. That's oifanim, chayes hakodesh. That's where the gearbox starts. Oifanim. That's what makes everything be mistovek. Not to be confused with the turning of the world. I'm talking about events of the world, the hashgacha pratis of the world. See, just before I go further, let me just explain. Let me bring this down to earth here to a place which is very important for us. We live in the world of Asiah here. We all live in the world of Asiah. The world of Asiah, so we can see, we can analyze, we can dissect, we can do pathology, we can look under a microscope, we can see was is, like we can see was state, we can see what's in front of us. And that's a lot. But it's all scientific. It's all about seeing the world. There is, what's important to understand here, this is different than I believe that what everybody has been thinking until this moment. I'm saying this I'm saying this that, like, just cross out everything in your mind for a second, because otherwise, now what happens is that everybody's just putting in what they know about this. I'm not asking for Vertlof here. I'm trying to explain something that he said. So, what we're talking about, what we can see in this world. Do we see everything? We see everything there is to see. But there's a world on top, which is simultaneous to this, which is also happening, and it's the neshama to this world. And with that, we don't see. Nobody can see it. So what we can see, but we don't necessarily understand or even see that which we don't see. So if we understand that there's a world on top of us, which is also as important, except it's not in the world of Gashmias, so it can't be seen under a microscope, it can't be picked up in a laboratory, and you can't even catch it with a metal detector, nothing. Like it doesn't have any physical properties to it, but there's another world on top of us, which is also a different dimension to everything that's happening here, and another world on top of that, another world on top of that. So we don't know. So I'll give you an example. Like, let's say I decide that I'm going to get into my car and go to the store and buy some milk and come home. It doesn't work out. My car doesn't go, I get lost. I was reading the news yesterday that 2 guys somehow from London got on the wrong boat and they ended up in the middle of Syria. Did you read that? It was in Arut Sheva, middle of Syria, middle like Fallujah, because these 2 guys, they were drunk and they got on the wrong boat. And their mother called it. Anyways, it was all the Russian police saved their lives. Like, I got somebody. Like, yeah, end up where, lava, like, why do we end up in Syria? So there's one thing that's going on in the world that we're in, and then sometimes work better than we thought, and sometimes things work much worse than we thought, or often they work differently than we thought. Why? Not because, so this is what you don't want to fall into. Not because, it's Bashert. Of course, not arguing with Bashert. But what's going on here is that you're operating in the world that we could touch and feel. But there's a whole different dimension over here, which is not necessarily it's a different dimension to what we're seeing. It's like this at everything, right? I mean, in other words, there's what you see, what you don't see. Let's say a person has doesn't feel good, has symptoms. So what do we do medically? What do we do? This is like the chet of the door, is we treat those symptoms. Have a headache, take an aspirin, right? We treat the symptoms. So is anybody looking at what's the deeper dimension to it? There's a deeper dimension to it. What are you eating? What are you made of? What's your cell structure? What's your genetics? Like, there's so many different parts of this. So, why am I getting a headache? Why am I bruising so easily? Those are just symptoms, So you can treat the symptoms and get sicker, or you can find out if somebody has that chachma, find out what's really pulling it. So what's going on over here in this world in general is there's what we can see in the world, scientifically, and then there's what we can see spiritually, which we can't see spiritually.
What's the interrelationship between them?
They're not interrelated. They are the same. They're the same thing. They're gears. So we don't know what's really making the car not work. We don't really know what's really making it that the store doesn't have the item that I want to make. So we could say it's bashert, but that's a cop-out. What we want to say is that, there's a dimension going on here, a bigger wheel, which we're not understanding at all. So look, I had an experience with sort of a negative, positive, bittersweet experience this week. I was called to a din Torah, and I hope that the Tovea is not going to listen to this tape, but I was called to a din Torah. Really, the second time in my life I was called to a din Torah. I published a book for an author who was unhappy, called me to a din Torah. So the end of the story, I was nervous about it. I wasn't nervous about winning or losing, Bashert, so that's your mind. And I didn't think I was going to lose anyway. I was nervous because I came with a briefcase full of papers explaining why not only did I not hurt that person, but on the contrary, our claim against him was 10 times the amount of his. But this bunch of papers would have completely embarrassed him in front of the Beis Din and washed the floor with him because he's not a good person. Okay, so the Beis Din, Min HaShamayim, I came with all these papers. The Beis Din listened to him and threw the whole thing out of court. It was a davar pasha. And I was so relieved, not because I wanted to deter, it was even winning, like there was no argument here to win, but because I wasn't put in a position where I had to, do this. It's just not my teva to sit there and to bashmutz a person for an hour straight with everything that's wrong with him. So Hashem saved me, from this, and I'm grateful. But Baruch Hashem. So you win on a couple of levels. So I was thinking, I was just giving myself chizuk before going to Yerushalayim to this, that the Gemara says, kol dayan, a dayan, which is don din emes la'amitai. Nasa shutav la'kadosh baruch hu b'ma'aseh bereishis u'ba'orei shel Mashiach. The Gemara. So what's the pshat being a dayan which is don din emes la'amita? Emes, don din emes. So the pshat is that when we're talking about good dayanim with integrity, we're not talking about a bunch of clowns. The emes is al pi halacha, ein l'dayan, l'ma she'ein avros. That a dayan has to look at things scientifically. This is what I see. This is the halacha, and what else is going on? I don't know. I could look at the evidence. I could see if the Eidim are ksherim. I could look at ein l'dayan l'ma she'ein avros. Somebody's saying, yeah, but you're not understanding. Ein l'dayan l'ma she'ein avros. So there's really no emotion involved. Shouldn't be, and no rachmanis involved. The Torah warns against these kind of things. Like I said, they're pnei dal. Just because a person's poor, you shouldn't lean them. Shouldn't give them an advantage in mishpat. Rachmanis, veer. But don din emes la'amitai, the Goyen explains, is that if you can be zoche, if a dayan can be zoche, to be dana din lefi mashein of royes. But what's happening is not only mashein of royes is an emes, not only is it emes in this world, but it's also emes in the world above. So then he's a shutaf la'kadosh baruch hu. You get it? He's just joined HaKadosh Baruch Hu in the Ma'aseh Bereishis. Meaning that if this Beis Din, if this entire, this Sanhedrin, is able to be dole from worlds above without even knowing it, have the siyata d'shmaya to do this, so then what you are is God's emissaries in this world, and you're able to be nasa shutaf la'kadosh baruch hu Ma'aseh Bereishis. So can a dayan do this? Who knows? Can a dayan even know it, that he did it? No. But it's just a metzias. The metzias is that a dayan should don din emes, our level, la'amitai. We like to say that word, it's just emes la'amitai. You don't know if something is emes la'amitai. You could just say it's emes, at best. You could say something is emes. To say it's emes la'amitai means it's true in a number of worlds. So, and that's why, by the way, the we say on Minchan Shabbos, Tzid Kasvut Tzedek Le'olam, the Kadosh Baruch Hu's B'Tzedek, Tziduk Adin. Mishpatecha, your mishpat tahoim rabba. Tahoim rabba. What's a tahom? Like huge, right? Mishpatecha tahoim rabba. Meaning that there's a little din here that we can see, world of Gashmias, but then mishpatecha tahoim rabba. So the Goyen explains that let's say somebody kills somebody else, and he's Chayim Misa. And the Sanhedrin Paskins is Chayim Misa. So good, take him, send him to the dogs. He's Chayim Misa, he's a horrible person, he's a murderer, kill him somebody. What if his wife's at Tzedekah? Why does she become an almanah now? What about the Yisoyman? What about the neighbors? What about, this can traumatize thousands of people. Thousands of people this can traumatize. So what's the Sanhedrin killing the guy for? So the answer is, says the Goyen, that the Beis Din, or the Sanhedrin, that's being Mechayev Hamisa, are not going to be able to do that unless they tap into the Mishpat of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Mishpatecha, to Haim Rabbah. The Mishpat Hashem takes everything into account. Yisayim, Almanah, neighbors, finances, life insurance, everything. Everything is there. That's Mishpatecha to Haim Rabbah, which is probably why the Sanhedrin never ended up killing anybody. because if HaKadosh Baruch Hu is taking so much into Cheshbon, that if somebody dies, but the point is all the ducks are in their places. So when we understand, this is very new. I'm telling you, it's very Dakas Dikut is very new. But let's say Moshe Rabbeinu asked the hardest question in history. He said to Hashem, "Hareini nos kvoidcha lama yesh tzadik v'raloi." Lama yesh tzadik v'raloi. Or in contemporary English, why do the righteous suffer? And Hashem said, "Lo yarani adam v'chai." No, this is not something you can understand why you're alive. This is not something. If I show you this, you will die. That's not what it means. Lo yarani adam v'chai is it's not something you can understand why you're alive. That's the pshat. What Moshe Rabbeinu was touching, he was in the world of Asiah, touching the world of Yitzirah. And he was right there with those Ophanim on Har Sinai, Shavuos. When he's there, he's having Nevuas Baklaria HaMe'ira. He has a glimpse of the Shemayim. The Gemara Menachos is talking about all the interactions going on with him and the Malachim want to kill him, and answer Hachzer Lahem Shuva. The Malachim are tining on him, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu's whole thing going up. So Moshe Rabbeinu wasn't here; he was there. We're not having dinars with Malachim. He was. Hachzer Lahem Shuva. Achoyz b'kisei hakavod. Listen to this. I just realized. Achoyz b'kisei hakavod b'hachzer Lahem Shuva. Look at the Gemara Menachos Mem Beis. That Hashem said to him, the Malachim said, "Why are you giving a human being the Torah?" And Hashem told Moshe Rabbeinu, "Hachsek b'kisei hakavod." Where's the kisei hakavod, Gil? Briah. Boom, boom. That's where he was. B'hachzer Lahem Shuva. So Moshe Rabbeinu, not in the world of Asiya anymore. Lechem lo yachalti, mayim lo shasisi, right? I'm not b'chlal abasar. I'm not even in the world of Yitzirah, but achoyz b'kisei hakavod grabbed it. That's where he was. That's where he was in the world of Briah, and Hachzer Lahem Shuva. That's where the Torah. That's where Moshe Rabbeinu got to. Apparently, that's where a human being can get to. So Moshe Rabbeinu is in the world of Yitzirah, in the world of Briah. And he's saying, okay, now maybe I can understand Lama Yesh Tzadik V'Raloi. Hareini Nas Kvoidcha is show me your kavod. I want to see the whole Marechet. I'm here. Give me a tour. Rebbeinu Shalom. I have a tour. I want to see the Marechet here. And in the Marechet, I want to understand Tzadik V'Raloi. What does it mean? He had as much faith as we have. That wasn't the problem. What he wanted to see is that if a tzaddik is suffering in this world, this doesn't make sense from a you're doing good and you're getting bad. On this world, it doesn't make sense, but it must make sense on a higher dimension. What's the higher dimension? The higher dimension has to do, let's say, as an example, the higher dimension has to do with the unfolding of history. Can we understand that somehow or another, if there wouldn't be a Holocaust, there wouldn't be a state of Israel? Can we understand that? Can anybody understand that? Maybe in 1,000 years they can, be helpful when they do it. As your grandfather, you can't understand such a thing. So what's the? So Moshe Rabbeinu is saying, like, if I would see the whole Marechet for a second, if you could show me the whole thing, the whole watch, then I would be able to understand why it has to be that millions have to suffer in this world. And the answer is that we're pushing history ahead. But Lo Yarani Adam V'Chai, as long as you're alive, you can't possibly comprehend that at all. It is the Medrash Rabbah in Vayeshev. We're out of time, so I just told you by heart. Medrash Rabbah in Vayeshev, well-known Medrash Rabbah. The Medrash Rabbah says that Hashvatim haya asukim b'mechiras Yosef. Yehuda haya oiseg likachisha. Yaakov haya Yosef b'sakoi v'tanisai. The Rebbeinu Shel Olam haya oiseg ba'orei shel Mashiach. Lashon of the Medrash Rabbah, Perek Pei. There's what's going on here. Yaakov Tanisai Tzedek. They're selling Yosef around. He's looking for a wife. Like Olam Kibbutz Haggai Hoylech, a lot of Sinas Chinam and a lot of Avelus and a lot of there'd be times I was getting married. And everybody's being Isaac in their thing. What's HaKadosh Baruch Hu being Isaac in these things? Making sure that the bore is this deep and doesn't have snakes, of course. Making sure that the right wife comes to you, of course. But what HaKadosh Baruch Hu was working was history. He's being Isaac in the Irish of Mashiach. That's the world above. That's a different dimension. So when we say, and this is what's so important here, when we say, must be bashert, it doesn't mean that you're going to understand it. It doesn't mean you're going to understand it in 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, or ever. While you're alive, lo yirani hadam v'chai. That's the real answer. Because even if we get a glimpse of hashgacha pratis, it doesn't mean. I certainly have a lot of hashgacha pratis in my life. The Piasetzner writes that at the end. He didn't live very long, but at his end, he said, I got to see how the things that didn't work out in my life were actually much better than the things that did. Okay, that's a glimpse for a second of the Olam HaTachton. But in the Olam HaElyon, again, we're not talking about Olam Haba, where you go where you die. I'm talking about, necessarily, I'm talking about what's going on right now. Olam Shalgabe Olam Shalgabe Olam. To us, it's a pile of tzitzis on the board. They're not seeing the mania, the kedusha, the dimension which is going on. We're not seeing history. We're not seeing what happened. We're not seeing forward. We're not seeing Gilgulim. There's all kinds of things that we're not seeing. Just like in this room, there's all kinds of digital waves and microwaves and all kinds of waves. We don't see it, thank God. If we did, we'd go nuts, right? We'd see what was flying around in front of us. Like you walk, you're being assaulted every second. So that guy is smooth. Everything's not, So this is the Nakuda of the Olamos. So just as the introduction, the Nakuda of the Olamos is that there's, when we say something is bashert, like I don't even like that term so much, but like meant to be. I don't know. Of course, it's meant to be. I mean, pasha pshita. If that helps you, good. But what we're saying is that even something doesn't make sense right now in this world. It doesn't mean that if we would have a glimpse of a higher world, it wouldn't make sense. Then it would make sense. But we just don't have access. We don't have access. Even Moshe Rabbeinu didn't have access. He's in the world of Briah and he didn't have access. For that access, I guess you have to be in the world of Atzilus. You have to be the master planner to be able to see everything. So for Rosh Rabbeinu, maybe when you die, I'll give you like a panoramic, bird's eye view of the whole Marechet. Oh. But in the meantime, we're doing this and we're doing that. Sakei v'tanisai, marrying women, throwing away Yosef. We're doing all this kind of thing. HaKadosh Baruch Hu was making history because he was putting Orah Shel Mashiach. He was putting Yosef in Mitzrayim. HaKadosh Baruch Hu was putting the Jews into Mitzrayim. HaKadosh Baruch Hu was creating Avodim in Mitzrayim. HaKadosh Baruch Hu was creating Yitzirah Mitzrayim. HaKadosh Baruch Hu was creating Matan Torah. The Tikkun that we talk about on Shabbos that has to take place from the Chet HaDarish. HaKadosh Baruch Hu was working all that out. Who's supposed to see it when you're getting thrown into a pit? Who's going to see it when I'm looking around like, hello, help me. I'm in a pit. Nobody could see that because HaKadosh Baruch Hu is, the idea is, and this is what Bashert means. The idea is that you don't see this, you can only see this world, but there are worlds much more to see.
A technical question.
So I just